that's what I would say is take it one step at a time and allow yourself to heal and try to think of the good memories as well. That also helps put you in a good place.
And Jason, I'm so glad to have you on the show today. I was checking out the listing on Amazon and stuff. I'm going to buy your book and go through it. We get a lot of people in the Success, Motivation, Inspiration group that have dealt with either suicidal thoughts or somebody that's taken their own life, and a family member or friend or whatever. So I'm so glad to have you on, sharing what happened with your dad, and also how that's affected you and the choices you've decided to make because of that.
Yeah. Well, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me.
Let me ask you a real personal question starting off. Can you share one thing that you loved or admired about your dad?
Yeah, absolutely, man. He was a true craftsman. Like, he was an electrician. He was a guy that could really, do almost anything, though. I mean, he was so talented with his hands, like, whether it was carpentry or building or anything like that. And he had a mind where he saw it in his head, and he didn't stop until it was exactly how he pictured it. And so, like, his attention to detail, which you had to have being an electrician, was off the charts. So, I mean, that was something that always will stick with me about, what I admired about him the most.
How old were you when he decided to take his life?
I was 17. So I was almost the end of my junior year in high school, into my senior year. So it was a very moldable time in my life, especially because you're getting ready to become an adult, and you really start to look up to your father at that age because he's been where possibly you want to do, and those kind of things. So it was definitely a very vulnerable time for sure. As a 17-year-old.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you made the decision not to follow in his footsteps or go down a path of depression. And I mean, there's a lot of folks that have something like that happen and they become drug addicts or alcoholics or end up, later doing the same thing because they're just can't deal with it. So
yeah, well, my faith really had a big impact on me, staying in the right path. And I remember one time specifically just praying and asking God. I was like, "Hey, God, can you just give me some guidance, give me some mentors?" I don't even know why I even asked that. Quite honestly, it just kind of came to me, and I've been ever since then. I am continually blessed with people who are on the right track, people I want to be like great examples of success, of what it takes to be great and what it takes. And so that put myself in that kind of environment has really kept my mind in the right spot because I made sure I put myself in the right environment.
And you've now not only published, you're publishing a book about it, and you've had you're teaching kids and doing youth sports programs and all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, so I've been a teacher for 10 years now, and then a coach for about 12 years. So basketball coach, and also basketball skills camp clinician, where I go across the country and lead basketball camps for a company called Breakthrough Basketball.
Man, that's so cool. How did your dad's decision to take his life, how'd that affect you and your family? And I can't even imagine going through that myself.
Well, yeah, it was, I grew up in a small town of about 800 people. So everybody knows everybody about everything, in a small town. So it hit the community and myself very hard because he was somebody you never thought that would happen to. Like, he was funny. He was outgoing. He was always helping people, like very involved in his family. I mean, he was like, I remember him being the ideal family guy, like always doing nice things for my mom. Like, it wasn't like I came from a dysfunctional house or like he was an alcoholic or anything like that. It was just, out of the blue, man. It was something that I'll never forget the impact that it hit me. It was like getting hit by a brick wall, man. So, but remembering how that felt also helps me remember that I can always get better too. So, and I can always learn from that myself. And like, I don't want my life to end up like that. So what do I need to do today to make sure that I don't fall down that spiral?
I'm so sorry you went through that.
Yeah. But it's also made me who I am today, too. So, you learn to take what life gives you and try to flip it into a positive as much as you can.
Now, what advice would you give for someone that's either thinking about suicide or thinking maybe that's the only way that their only way out? Or
the reality of it is there's so many options. There's great people at a place called AAS, which is the American Association of Suicidology. There's a text hotline. But it goes down to the bottom line of somebody does care about you. Somebody does love you. Somebody is going to miss you if you're gone. Somebody is going to, really be hurt by that, And so, think about like all the people that you that could be affected. And when you start thinking about other people, I feel like then maybe those thoughts go away, and that's kind of my hope is, I've never been in a place that where I've ever thought about that. But, my thought is the more I think about how other people would react to it, it never crosses my mind to do something like that. So.
And I get on calls a lot of times, people with the Success, Motivation, Inspiration group. We've got 115 some odd thousand folks in the group right now. And, I get calls more often than I'd like where people are thinking either they're thinking about suicide or they're just saying, I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm really thinking about it. I've got to, I just don't see any value that I provide to the world. Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me. I'm going, man, the time we spent on that 15-minute call or whatever changed, made me, impacted me, I guess. So even if, I'm just some random stranger that they called on a Facebook group, and I can connect and learn something from them, and you feel like I made a friend out of that conversation. So if I'm some random guy in a different part of the world on a Facebook group, that person's affected people that, at the local coffee shop or the grocery store, there's always people that care about you. You just need to, I don't know, maybe step outside yourself and realize that you're not.
And that's when you realize that, hey, people do care about you. And you're like, oh man, I remember that friend that did it, so like, it's something that, you just try to think about other people, and that I feel like really can help you. So.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
For listeners that have lost someone due to suicide, a friend, family member, relative, I guess what advice can you share with them?
Do not suppress your emotions. Like, allow yourself to heal, allow yourself to feel like, all the things that, go along with that, and just take life one day at a time. It's like, it is so overwhelming losing somebody to suicide. There's confusion, there's resentment, there's abandonment, there's all these feelings that you go through. And sometimes you don't feel anything. Like, you can go from feeling everything to feeling nothing. That's my personal experience. And that can be overwhelming, so like, I also use journaling a lot, and that was something that helped me, because even when I didn't feel like talking about it, I could write it down, and I could do that anywhere. And that kind of helped me. And that was part of why I wrote my book too, is, man, there was tears on the keyboard, but I was able to allow myself to feel those emotions that I had, quite frankly, suppressed for 15 years, because I just didn't want to deal with it, quite honestly. So, that's what I would say, is take it one step at a time and allow yourself to heal, and try to think of the good memories as well. That also helps put you in a good place. So.
That's great advice. I'm planning, as soon as we get done here, I'm going to buy your book. That's called Shattered by Suicide, Renewed by Resilience, right?
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
It's on Amazon, and then it's also going to be an audiobook here in the next couple of weeks too. So
cool. I love audiobooks. That's I listen to average of 6.5 books a month.
Wow. Yeah.
Anytime I get in the car, I'm on an audiobook. And
yeah, I think it'll be on Audible, and it'll be on iTunes. And I think as well as Amazon. I don't know if Amazon has audiobook as well, but there's a couple of different platforms it'll be on. So
cool. Send me that link when you get done, and I'll, when you get that published, and I'll put that in your show notes as well.
Yeah, sure.
So what made you decide to write your book and use your pain to help others rather than going down the same path?
I felt like it was a decision where if I could help one person, if one person could maybe walk through my shoes and see like what it feels like to lose somebody to suicide, that maybe they would change their mind. And then on the flip side of that, maybe people that have lost somebody to suicide, they would find somebody that they can relate to, and maybe somebody that they could, learn how I handled it and how I was able to, kind of push through and use resilience and perseverance and believe that a better life was ahead for me. Maybe they could use that as inspiration for themselves. And my goal was, if it helps one person, then it was worth it. If it saves a life, if it saves one life, it was worth it. So, I feel like we're just called to be better and help. Like, we're called to help. We are a species that helps other people, so that was kind of my initial goal for it. I didn't know where it would take me. I didn't really care, as long as it was to help others. So that was my main thing for writing it.
I love that. If you could recommend one book for our audience other than yours, what book would that be?
Yeah. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
which
is, man, it's phenomenal. I read it every day, whether it's a page, a chapter, whatever it is, I read it every day. And then, anything by Bob Proctor, but especially The Art of Living is so good. I mean, and he's, Bob Proctor is a guy that I listen to or watch every day just because of his inspiration and, what he continues to do at 85. So
that's awesome. And the cool thing about that, I've published some books myself. I'm publishing my 4th and 5th books right now. And, you start writing a book thinking you're just taking notes or trying to kind of help yourself keep a little journal or whatever.
Yeah.
It's amazing with your book. I can't imagine the amount of folks that are, over the years that you'll impact that you will never know about. You'll never even know that you had an impact on their life. But
yeah, it's funny
like
too. I've had a few book signings and stuff too, and people will come up to me that I've never met and say, "Hey, like, thank you for writing this, thank you." And I was like, "Wow, like you just never really know until like something like that happens." I was like, and then it makes it all worth it.
Yeah. Well, and the 1 in a million people that show up to a book signing, you
Yeah.
can imagine how many others there are that you're touching that you'll never hear about.
For sure. Yeah.
So how do you push through tough times, or what's your advice for somebody that's going through a really tough time right now?
I think about my goals, and I also think of like, what is this tough time training me for next? Like, what am I learning here that is going to help me with whatever's next in my future? So, having, for example, right now, sometimes I have a 10-month-old and a 3-year-old, and sometimes I don't get very much sleep, and, Stephen Kotler is a guy. Have you heard of Stephen Kotler? He's known for what's called the habit of ferocity, and he has a great quote and said, "Be at your best when you're at your worst." So always think about how can you be at top notch even when you don't have very much sleep, or even when maybe things don't go your way. Like, what is this training you for? And so that's kind of how I use tough times to say, this is just preparing me for what's next, and something better is coming. So that's kind of the mindset that I have whenever life tries to throw you a curveball or some tough times. So
cool. I love that. What inspires you?
My family, my 2 boys at home, and, my mom, my sisters, and my nieces and nephews. I have a to-do list that I do every day. I put on an index card, and I put the initials of all my immediate family members at the top of the goal card. And then I put win the process. Then I put I'm prepared, I'm present, I'm productive. And so that is just like the engine that fuels the fuel that, gets me going and really wakes me up in the day. And like, you know what? Hey, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it because, I want them to have a, exciting life with me. So, that's kind of my fuel for getting up and getting after it every day.
Cool. That's great. What advice would you give for someone that's struggling with negative self-image or feelings of worthlessness?
I think it's about changing your environment, quite frankly, because your environment shapes you so much. So, if you have friends that are bringing you down, get new friends. Put positive quotes all over the place in your house, using auto-suggestion, which it's a chapter in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, listening like to positive music. Have you heard of the band called The Score?
I'm not sure. I don't listen to a lot of music. All I listen to is books and the audio books and podcasts. But they are
a phenomenal band, Score. And my book trailer, that's one of their songs that said the title is Born for This. And so and they have a ton of great songs and music. They found that is really a key, because you will just hum tunes to yourself, and then you repeat things. And so whatever you repeat to yourself goes in your subconscious mind. So positive music, or positive, even audiobooks or podcasts or whatever, listen to them over and over and over and over again really can help you recondition yourself. So that's what I would suggest to people.
Cool. I love that. I give the advice a lot where, I've got people that'll call in, or they'll get on a chat talking about, I was talking to a girl the other day that was messaging in. She's struggled with heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine, all kinds of different addictions.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Had gone through sexual abuse starting at 8 years old.
Man.
And just had an absolutely terrible life. But she has decided to get out. She went through all the rehab homes and stuff, and talked about breaking out and getting taken back. And, people keep putting her back in rehab, and she just get out and go back hanging around the same dirtbag friends that were dragging her back down.
Yeah.
And so on our call the other day, she was talking about how she had finally made the decision to cut off the old friends. And as hard as that was, that's the only life she ever knew. But
yeah.
She's got around positive people and
I like
got her first apartment.
I like what you said about she made the decision, because until you decide, and then you just don't, and then you decide that, and then you're like, there's no other option. This is my decision and I'm moving forward. That's when the real change happens. That's what I learned in my life too, is like, make the decision and then don't look back, So yeah.
Yeah. That was a good thing for me to hear that, even a lot of times I'm talking to extremely successful folks that are, have done great. I'm like, yeah, it's easy to surround yourself with successful people when you're already a millionaire. You're already making $100,000 a year. And so it's easier to get around somebody that's making 200 or 300.
Right.
But really cool to hear people like that have come from nothing to deciding, hey, I can't go back to that same crowd. And
it makes it more relatable to a lot more people too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Man, I sure appreciate your time. I will put a link to your Amazon profile and
great. Thanks.
Different social stuff on your page there. And
thank you. I appreciate having me on here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.